Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the HEB Center in Cedar Park, Texas. And what a Dynamite this was tonight. This was a very good show tonight. Really enjoyed it. It made the 2 hours fly by fast. The crowd there in Texas was hot throughout the night for this Dynamite. But tonight on Dynamite, we had CM Punk make his return since him winning to MJF at Revolution. So Punk ended up taking on Dax Harwood of FTR. We had a 8-man Texas Tornado match, which was fucking awesome. It was Sting, Darby Allin, and Matt and Jeff Hardy versus The Butcher, The Blade, and Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Gwen. We had Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley versus the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison, and Brian Pillman Jr. We had Adam Cole versus Jay Leto, Leyla Hirsch versus Red Velvet. And the main event of Dynamite tonight was Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia versus Alex Reynolds and John Silver. Overall, this Dynamite was awesome. Very good show. Went at a fast pace. So let's jump right into the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with CM Punk versus Dax Harwood. And this was a very good match. And the wrestling here from both Punk and Harwood was good. And Punk, coming back after he won his match against MJF at Revolution. Punk ended up coming out first. Got a big ovation from the crowd there in Texas. And then Dax Harwood made his way out along with Cash Wheeler. So the match started off with Punk and Harwood locking up, and then a pen to the corner, end up breaking up the lockup, both of them. Harwood ended up dropping Punk with a shoulder tackle. Harwood fired back and delivered a knee attack to Punk, and Harwood followed that up with a suplex to Punk and then a leg drop. Harwood was continuing to beat down on Punk, ended up delivering a chop in the corner to Punk. But then Harwood got distracted by the Gun Club, who were sitting front row. And with that distraction, allowed Punk to fire back with some chops to Harwood. But then Harwood ended up nailing Punk with an elbow after Punk ended up bouncing from the ropes. So Punk ended up coming back because Harwood ended up delivering a diving headbutt, which he ended up missing at Punk. Punk then ended up trying to go up to the top rope. Harwood cut him off, which allowed for Punk to throw Harwood back down. So Dax Harwood ended up knocking the top rope, which ended up hanging Punk up there. And Harwood ended up connecting with a superplex, which was a very nice superplex from the top rope. So Harwood ended up going back up to the top. He connected with a diving headbutt to Punk. Harwood went for the cover, and Punk ended up kicking out. Punk and Harwood end up going to the outside of the ring. They end up falling awkwardly to the floor on the outside. So Cash Wheeler ended up going over to Harwood to encourage him. So Punk and Harwood end up going back to the ring. Punk hit a diving crossbody, and he ended up going for the cover, which Harwood ended up kicking out. And after that, Punk immediately locked in the Anaconda Vice, but Harwood ended up reversing it, and he tried to set the sharpshooter on Punk. Punk ended up kicking Harwood, and Harwood's head ended up slamming off the bottom turnbuckle. and it led to both Punk and Harwood. They were doing back and forth pinfall attempts. Punk ended up hitting the running knee to the corner, but Harwood ended up blocking the running bulldog by hanging on to Punk. So Harwood ended up nailing a slingshot powerbomb, and he ended up going for the cover, which Punk ended up kicking out. Harwood ended up reversing a GTS attempt, and he locked in the sharpshooter, and Punk ended up rolling over, transitioned back into the Anaconda Vice, and Harwood ended up tapping out. So there you go. Punk ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a very good match between Punk and Harwood here. Just really enjoyable match. That superplex off the top was very good. And, all in all, it was just a good match. And then we had the Jericho Appreciation Society backstage. And Jericho was talking about the picture that was shared of him and John Silver when John Silver was, small. John Silver ended up meeting Jericho years ago. So Daniel Garcia ended up saying that they beat up professional wrestlers, and they will show them that they can't hang. Because if you remember last week in the segment, the promo that Jericho was cutting, he ended up claiming himself a sports entertainer, into which Daniel Garcia ended up saying, if Jericho is a sports entertainer, then I should be. So both Jericho and Daniel Garcia end up claiming themselves sports entertainers. So Jericho ended up saying that they will future endeavor them. They will future endeavor professional wrestlers. So then they were joking about how Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz are gone. So pretty much that was basically the segment here with the Jericho Appreciation Society. But overall, I enjoyed this segment with them. Really interesting to see where they take the Jericho Appreciation Society moving forward. And then we had an 8-man Texas Tornado match. Sting, Darby Allin, and the Hardys, Matt and Jeff, versus The Butcher, The Blade, and Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. And this match was the best match of the night. This was fucking awesome and very entertaining. So we had Sting and Darby Allin. They ended up coming out first. And then Matt and Jeff Hardy ended up coming out, which they got, of course, a big pop from the crowd there in Texas. And then we had the AFO end up coming out, Andrade and the Butcher and the Blade, Private Party. So Darby Allin ended up diving out to hit Private Party and the Butcher and the Blade. That was pretty cool there. So Darby Allin wasted no time. He ended up taking out Private Party, Butcher and the Blade as soon as they came out. And then you saw Sting. Sting was on the top. Sting launched himself from the top onto Pirate Party and the Butcher and the Blade. It was a 63-year-old Sting here doing all that. If you thought him jumping from the mezzanine at Revolution through the table was, the last we've seen of Sting doing that, Sting did it right here tonight. Jumped off the top and took out Private Party, Butcher and the Blade. So there was the brawl happening between these guys, and it went all over the arena. Jeff Hardy and the Blade end up fighting up the stairs through the crowd. So inside of the ring, Matt Hardy ended up using his delete attack in the corner. Darby Allin ended up dominating on the Butcher. Andrade ended up appearing, and he ended up whipping Darby with the belt. And that allowed the Butcher to hit Darby Allin into the railing, and he ended up tossing Darby Allin down the stairs, which this is the second time that Darby Allin has been tossed down some stairs. If you remember last year at Blood and Guts, Darby ended up having the same thing, being tossed down the stairs by Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. So 2 times already, Darby Allin has been tossed down some stairs. So then we went back to the ring, and Matt Hardy ended up hitting the side effect to Isaiah Cassidy. Mark Quinn ended up appearing from behind, rocked him with a trash can to the head. And we had Private Party later on. Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, they end up launching Matt Hardy off the ramp. And all 3, Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, and Matt Hardy, they end up crashing into a table that was on the floor. And so we went back in the concourse area of the arena. Darby Allin and Sting had both the Butcher and the Blade on the table. Jeff Hardy ended up climbing up a ladder, and he ended up standing on a beam, like a balcony, and he ended up diving down with a swanton bomb, and he went through the table, took out the Butcher and the Blade, which that was my favorite spot of the match there. 2 weeks already, Jeff Hardy is with AEW, and he's climbing a ladder, he's on a beam, a balcony, and he ends up doing a swanton off there onto Butcher and the Blade. So you can tell right here, Jeff Hardy is loving already being in AEW. So then, Private Party ended up sending Matt Hardy in the ring, and Matt Hardy was able to kick out. You had Matt Hardy and Sting ended up doing a double twist of fate to Private Party. So we had Sting. He started doing stinger splashes into the corner to Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. And I think it was Isaiah Cassidy, he moved out of the way. Sting went into the turnbuckle. And with that point, Private Party, they were looking to go for a gin and juice, but Sting ended up countering, and he ended up hitting a Scorpion Death Drop. And Matt Hardy ended up nailing the Twist of Fate. And there you go. Matt and Jeff Hardy, Sting and Darby Allin ended up winning this awesome 8-man Texas Tornado match. This was the best match of the night. Really enjoyed it. Jeff Hardy, this was the best match of the night. And the crowd was hot all through the match. They were loving what they were seeing. I said my favorite spot in the match was Jeff Hardy climbing up that ladder, standing on the edge of the beam balcony, and just jumping off there, going through the table, taking out the Butcher and the Blade. But awesome match it was. And then we had FTR. FTR was backstage, and Cash Wheeler was putting over Dax Harwood. He kept saying then, the Ass Boys, the Gun Club, think because of their father, they have respect. But that's not it. Harwood then ended up saying that he can't stand a spoiled brat. And if they think they can just take their spot, it's a problem. Harwood ended up saying that they are the best team in the business, and he refuses to call them ass boys. He kept saying that he will call them Billy's sons, and they will see them next week. So we're going to be seeing FTR versus the Gun Club next week on Dynamite. So it should be a good matchup there. And then we had Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley versus the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. And this was a solid match here. William Regal was on commentary during the match, which was cool. Love to hear Regal on commentary. And we had Bryan and Moxley and the Varsity Blondes. They were brawling. And Julia Hart was out there. Julia Hart was just sitting on the ring steps. She was not watching what was going on in the ring. So Bryan started unloading some kicks to Brian Pillman Jr. Moxley ended up coming in, started continuing the attack of what Bryan was doing to Pillman. Pillman turned it around. He ended up leading Griff Garrison to coming in. And Moxley then ended up hitting a German suplex. Bryan ended up coming in, delivered a big kick to Griff Garrison. Bryan ended up setting up Garrison with a submission, surfboard submission. Moxley then ended up coming in, delivered a kick to Griff Garrison's chest. And Bryan still had the submission locked in. Moxley ended up launching Garrison onto the top rope. Bryan ended up crashing in with a diving knee to Garrison. So Garrison ended up coming back. He ended up connecting with a back body drop. And he was delivering some strikes to Bryan. So we had Pillman end up going for the cover. Bryan ended up kicking out. Pillman ended up trying to springboard into the ring, and Bryan delivered a kick. So at the end of the match, we had Bryan end up coming back in with a knee to Griff Garrison, and Moxley ended up getting the paradigm shift. So both end up stomping down, both Bryan and Moxley end up stomping down. Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. end up hitting the double submissions on the both of them. So Bryan and Moxley ended up winning the match. Post-match, Moxley ended up getting on the mic. Moxley ended up saying that he has been fortunate to compete against and learn from the best. He ended up saying there's only one man whose opinion he ever cared about, and that one man was William Regal. He ended up saying the seal of approval from him as a badge of honor, and he earned that through pain, blood, and dislocated joints. Moxley ended up saying that they were forged into combat, and if anyone wants to get in the ring with them, they best step up or get stepped on. Moxley then ended up saying that if anyone thinks they can ride with three most sadistic individuals, they are not giving out free passes. He ended up saying that talent needs to reach deep down and find the place where they love pain. He ended up saying that if people want a badge of honor from the Blackpool Combat Club, because he ended up saying that he wears the Blackpool badge of honor, just like Bryan, which calls himself the American Dragon. So Moxley ended up saying that if people want a badge of honor from that combat club, from Blackpool Combat Club, they have to earn it the hard way. So that's what Moxley had to say. But Bryan and Moxley, since Revolution, they've been on a roll, winning matches, teaming up together, with William Regal at their side. But overall, it was, a solid match between Bryan and Moxley and the Varsity Blondes. And then we had MJF. MJF ended up coming out. He came out with Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears had a chair in hand. MJF ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that he meant what he said about Wardlow being able to keep the TNT Championship. And that it's a shame that he didn't win. MJF then ended up telling CM Punk that he had him beat at Revolution, which is why he cheated to win. He kept saying that he doesn't know where or when he will give Punk his most embarrassing loss of his entire career. MJF ended up saying that it won't be over until he attends Punk's funeral and pisses on his grave. So then MJF ended up telling the fans they like Wardlow, and the fans end up cheering. So MJF ended up saying that, oh, you fans like Wardlow because you're all inbred. So MJF ended up claiming that he will call Wardlow Pig now, because that's what he is, a greedy little pig. So MJF ended up saying that if it wasn't for him, nobody would even know who Wardlow is. So MJF ended up saying that he repays Wardlow by costing him his biggest match and then asking for a release from his contract. So MJF ended up telling him that he signed the deal with the devil, that Wardlow didn't sign with AEW, and that he signed with him. He signed the deal with the devil, and they are ironclad. And of course, MJF ended up having security out there, which I forgot to mention because he came out with security. So we all knew where this was going to head, with security being out there. So MJF ended up saying that he was going to make Piggy's life a living hell. So he ended up claiming that if he wants to kick Wardlow's mother out of her house, Wardlow will say nothing. And that led to Wardlow coming out. Wardlow had enough of what MJF was saying. So Wardlow ended up taking out all of the security, MJF security. But then more security came from the back. They were trying to get a hold of Wardlow. MJF ended up telling Wardlow that he doesn't work for AEW and that he works for him. And MJF ended up saying that he doesn't want Wardlow here anymore. He ended up saying that he's trespassing. So he will be paying him just to stay home until the people forget that he even existed. So MJF started shooting down some rumors. He kept saying that the pinnacle is over and has never been better. So he ended up saying, starting next week, they are moving up. So Shawn Spears ended up saying, when you're in the pinnacle, you're always on top. And that was how the segment ended. But so far, this feud between MJF and Wardlow has been done very good. And their feud's going to go on until they have their match, which I could say probably is going to come at Double or Nothing. So, but they're doing a good job so far with their feud. But really enjoyed this segment. And then we saw Trent backstage. Trent Beretta ended up saying that he never liked Wheeler Yuta, but he let him in. He let him in the best friends because the rest did. So Wheeler Yuta ended up saying that he loves those guys, but he didn't like Trent either. Yuta ended up saying that he's not trying to be the best friend he can be, and that he's trying to be the best wrestler. And Trent either gets that or he doesn't. So that was that. But will Wheeler Yuta align with Moxley and Bryan and William Regal? We've seen that where William Regal ended up slapping Wheeler Yuta. Will Wheeler Yuta be the first recruit with Moxley and Bryan and William Regal? I said if Wheeler Yuta, aligns with them, that could be good for Wheeler Yuta, because they've been making Wheeler Yuta a jobber. And if he aligns, if he's the first recruit with Bryan and Moxley and William Regal, that would mean good for Wheeler Yuta. But I hope they do that. Then we had Adam Cole versus Jay Leto. This was a good match. We had Cole and Jay Leto end up grappling to the corner. Adam Cole delivered a cheap shot to Leto, and Adam Cole ended up remaining in control of the match, started delivering some strikes to Leto. Leto ended up coming back, delivered a drop kick to Adam Cole, and then Adam Cole delivered a drop kick of his own to Jay Leto, which Leto ended up coming back. He delivered a backbreaker and slammed Cole. Very nice combo done there by Jay Leto. So Leto ended up hitting a drop kick to the back of Adam Cole's head, and it led to Leto hitting 2 top suicidas to Adam Cole. So Leto ended up diving from the top turnbuckle and attacked Cole again. Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish end up appearing. They end up distracting Jay Leto, which allowed Cole to send Leto into the steps. Cole then ended up sending Leto face first into the turnbuckle a couple of times. And then Jay Leto started firing back with some strikes to Adam Cole. He then looked to go for the figure 4, but Cole ended up reversing out of that with a pinfall attempt. And Jay Leto was trying again to lock in the figure 4 on Adam Cole. And that time, he locked it in. Adam Cole ended up reaching for the ropes, which allowed Jay Leto to break up the figure 4. Cole then ended up grabbing the ring skirt, which distracted the referee, which allowed Bobby Fish to distract Jay Leto. So Jay Leto ended up eating a super kick from Adam Cole. Leto ended up reversing the boom attempt with a cutter to Adam Cole. Cole ended up reversing the lethal injection with a super kick. And then Cole ended up hitting the Panama Sunrise, which he ended up going for the cover. And Lethal ended up kicking out. Jay Leto was able to go for the lethal injection, but of course, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish ended up distracting the official, which Adam Cole then ended up hitting a low blow to Jay Leto because Jay Leto was flipping around off the ropes, and then Adam Cole just low blowed him. And Adam Cole went for the boom, and he went for the cover. And there you go. Adam Cole ended up winning the match. Post-match, Adam Cole got on the mic, and he ended up saying nobody on the planet deserves the AEW World Championship more than him. He ended up saying that Hangman Page stole his victory, and in 2 out of the last 3 matches they've had, he won. He ended up saying last week he saw fear in Page's eyes. Cole ended up saying that the champion caught lightning in a bottle at Revolution, but he's going to shove it up his ass. Cole ended up saying that Page is a coward who doesn't have the guts to come out. Well then, Page ended up coming out. Page went to attack Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish with a belt. And then he ended up getting low blowed, and we had Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and Adam Cole started beating down on Page, and it led to Jurassic Express coming out, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus and Christian Cage end up running off Red Dragon and Adam Cole. But Adam Cole left with the AEW World Championship. And pretty much that was basically that. But the AEW World Championship looked cool around Adam Cole. And, he will be AEW World Champion. As much as we want to say MJF is next to win the AEW World Championship, probably after MJF, it'll be Adam Cole. But overall, it was a good match between Adam Cole and Jay Leto. Now we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was in the ring with Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti. They haven't been seen since Revolution. Sammy Guevara losing the TNT Championship to Scorpio Sky, and Tay Conti being attacked by Paige Van Zandt. So Guevara ended up saying that they can't change what happened with the TNT Championship. But he hasn't lost his love for the ring. And he will always do things that make people stand up and chant, "Holy shit," which the crowd chanted in a, holy shit. They were doing a holy shit chant. Guevara ended up saying that if he is going to pay for it, it will be worth it. And what the fans give to him is everything he wanted until now. So Tay Conti ended up getting on the mic. Tay Conti ended up saying now they want payback. Conti ended up saying that Paige Van Zandt will get her ass kicked like she did her entire career. Which that led to Dan Lambert and Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page coming out. And can somebody explain to me this? Why is Dan Lambert a co-champion? This was never explained. Just Dan Lambert is co-TNT champion. Never explained. So Dan Lambert ended up claiming that Paige Van Zandt had appearances in places like Texas. But he ended up saying you can subscribe to our OnlyFans and see why Orange Cassidy always has his hands in his pockets. So he ended up claiming that they have Tiny Tim and Lucha Horace, which Lambert ended up calling Guevara and Tay Conti. He called Tay Conti Lucha Horace. So Dan Lambert ended up saying that they can kiss the match goodbye. So Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky end up walking off. Dan Lambert ended up kissing the TNT Championship. And Guevara ended up saying that if he knew what Dan Lambert did while wearing the title, then he would know that they live in his mouth. Meaning Guevara and Tay Conti live in Dan Lambert's mouth. Which I thought that was hilarious. But overall, that was that. But this segment, it was, fine. And then we had Leyla Hirsch versus Red Velvet. Solid women's match. Not great, in my opinion. The match started off with Leyla Hirsch attacking Red Velvet, sending her into the apron during her entrance, and it led to them brawling around ringside, which, the bell didn't even ring. So they end up launching each other, both Hirsch and Red Velvet, into the barricades. Red Velvet end up leaping off the steps into a hurricanrana. So once Hirsch and Red Velvet end up getting into the ring, the match began. Leyla Hirsch ended up regaining control with a gut wrench, and she started continuing to attack on Red Velvet, stomping away on Red Velvet in the corner. So Leyla Hirsch ended up locking in the body scissors on Red Velvet. Red Velvet tried to fight back by springboarding back, but Leyla Hirsch ended up catching her, and Leyla Hirsch delivered a German suplex to Red Velvet. Leyla Hirsch was looking to go to the top rope, but Red Velvet ended up stopping her, pulling her over the top of her down to the mat. So Red Velvet followed that up with a corkscrew kick. Leyla Hirsch was able to roll away. So Leyla Hirsch ended up winning. Overall, solid women's match. like I said, not great. But post-match, Leyla Hirsch started continuing to attack Red Velvet. It led to Chris Statlander coming out. So Leyla Hirsch ended up getting out of the ring, wanting nothing to do with Chris Statlander. And they're changing it up with Chris Statlander. They're moving her away from the alien gimmick and just making her, regular. Without the alien things that Chris Statlander was doing with the boop. So Chris Statlander is getting a gimmick change, moving her away from the alien gimmick. And then we had Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill and Mark Sterling were talking about Cargill's potential 30th match. Jade ended up telling Mark Sterling that she wants to talk about the post-match celebrations. And she started listing things off that she wants, when she has her 30th win. Because Jade Cargill's still undefeated. She's 30-0. TBS champion. So. And then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone ended up welcoming the new AEW Women's World Champion, Thunder Rosa, out to the stage, which Thunder Rosa ended up winning the AEW Women's World Championship last week on Dynamite, defeating Britt Baker in the steel cage, which was a good match there. Very well deserving for Thunder Rosa. So then Vicky Guerrero ended up appearing. Before Thunder Rosa could even say a word, Vicky Guerrero comes out screaming, "Excuse me!" Yeah, every time you hear Vicky Guerrero say, "Excuse me," you just want to pick up the remote and mute the TV. So Vicky Guerrero ended up giving Thunder Rosa some credit, as she does show up for training. So Vicky Guerrero ended up telling Thunder Rosa to take her fake green card and backstroke back to Mexico. So then Nyla Rose ended up appearing from behind, ended up attacking Thunder Rosa. So Nyla Rose ended up laying Thunder Rosa out. And that was that. So it's going to be Thunder Rosa versus Nyla Rose. Probably for the AEW Women's World Championship. Oh, man. I'm like, really? Nyla Rose? All I can say is, where is Ruby Soho? Why hasn't Ruby Soho been on Dynamite and they're making her appear on Dark? Ruby Soho is too good for AEW Dark. So I'm like, yeah, I see Nyla Rose, but where's Ruby Soho? But yeah, Thunder Rosa versus Nyla Rose. That's going to be a sleeper match, in my opinion. That's going to be an easy win for Thunder Rosa there. Main event. Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia versus John Silver and Alex Reynolds. Very good match here. Jericho and John Silver, like I said, there was a picture floating around with John Silver years ago when he met Chris Jericho, and now you're seeing Jericho and John Silver just wrestling each other. So Jericho and Silver end up facing off first. Jericho ended up slapping John Silver, and that led to John Silver delivering some punches and a running attack to Jericho. Jericho then ended up running at Silver. Silver reversed with an arm drag as Alex Reynolds ended up coming in. And Silver and Reynolds end up delivering drop kicks to Jericho. Jericho escaped to the outside. Silver followed him up, ended up dropping Jericho with a kick. Silver then ended up hitting the brainbuster while Alex Reynolds ended up diving out of the ring into Jericho. So we had John Silver and Alex Reynolds. They ended up taking out Daniel Garcia. So Jericho ended up playing possum outside the ring. Jericho kicked the ring steps, pretending that he was attacked. So that led to Aubrey Edwards, who was the referee of the match. Aubrey Edwards ended up sending the rest of the Dark Order to the back. So vintage Chris Jericho, playing possum, pretending that he was attacked. So that led to Jericho and Daniel Garcia taking control of the match. Jericho ended up distracting Aubrey Edwards while the rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society attack Reynolds. Jericho was then looking to leap from the top rope, and Reynolds ended up adjusting with a drop kick and ended up catching Jericho in midair. Daniel Garcia ended up coming in to stop the tag, and Reynolds continued to fight. Jericho ended up dropping him with a shoulder tackle, and Jericho was going for the lion salt, and Reynolds moved out of the way. So Silver ended up tagging in. He started taking down Jericho. Daniel Garcia ended up getting launched also. Jericho was looking to go for a springboard into Silver, but Silver blocked it. Silver ended up hitting the cannonball to Daniel Garcia. So Silver was continuing to attack, and Jericho came back, delivered the code breaker to John Silver. So Jericho went for the cover. Silver kicked out. So at the end of the match, we had Alex Reynolds end up trying to charge, but Daniel Garcia ended up distracting Aubrey Edwards, which allowed Jericho to hit Alex Reynolds with Floyd, Jericho's bat. So Daniel Garcia then ended up setting in the Scorpion Deathlock on Alex Reynolds, and there you go. Daniel Garcia and Chris Jericho ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a good main event. Jericho Appreciation Society, like I said, want to see where AEW takes this even more with Jericho Appreciation Society. So let's see where it goes from here. But overall, Dynamite, awesome show tonight, very good, and the crowd was hot throughout the night. Just a very good show it was. But anyways, that's it for my review of Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all with the next video, which will be a movie review of The Lost City, which stars Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. I'm going to see it tomorrow, so that will be the next video, a movie review of The Lost City. So, till then, see you all later.